Okay, welcome back to another video, and in this video we're going to be kind of carrying along forward from the last video. Unfortunately, I keep recording these videos to be a little bit too long and they get broken up into two videos. But in this video we're going to talk about nested loops, or nesting loops inside of loops, and then we're going to look at an example in Visual Studio. So one more time, going back to Visual Studio, close our terminal, and we're actually going to replace our code. So our code will be replaced in 3, 2, 1. And here we have our new code. So we're going to keep our windows.h in here because, again, we're using that sleep line of code. So we're simply going to call x equal to 3 and y equal to 6. And now we're going to use our for loops. So remember, we had our initialization parameter inside the for loop. So we're simply going to define I being equal to 1. We have some condition, so I less or equal to x, where now x is again 3. And then our updation, so here we're using plus plus I, which is just going to increment I. Now there's many ways we can increment I. You can use plus plus I, you can use I plus plus, and a few other different ways. And the difference between plus plus I and I plus plus is that plus plus I will increment I before processing the current statement, and I plus plus, it'll do it after. So now that we have our for loop kind of defined for the parameters, inside that for loop, we are just going to output whatever I is, so that variable, and then a new line. And then the next thing that happens is we're going to have another for loop nested in it. So now we're going to have j equal to 1 as the initialization. We're going to have a condition for j less or equal to y, where y is 6, we define that up here. And then we're going to increment j the same way that we did with I. Now inside of this for loop, what's going to happen is that we are going to output j, and then we're going to have a tab or a space. And that's all that happens in this for loop. And then after this for loop, we're just going to output some new lines, and then we're going to sleep for 2 seconds, or pause for 2 seconds, you could say. And then we are out of our original for loop. So if we walk through this code, starting with line 9, I is going to be equal to 1. And we look at the condition, is I less or equal to x? Well, yes, because 1 is less than 3. So I is only equal to 1 here. So when we output I, it's just going to be 1, colon, and then a new line. And then following that, we enter the second loop, so j is equal to 1, that is less than 6. And then what we're going to do is output j, tab it over, and because j gets incremented by 1, well, j is only equal to 2 here. So because j is equal to 2, which is still less or equal than 6, we stay in this loop. So after that, then we would violate this condition, so we would not be in this for loop anymore. So we would exit it here, we would output our new line, we'd sleep for 2 seconds, and then notice here, while all of this was happening, I was still less or equal than 3, so we don't break out of this original loop, we stay in this, except now because the way I is incremented, we would print off 2, semicolon, and then a new line, and then we would repeat this loop again. So you might think, well, j was equal to 6, and we exited it, so why would we be in this loop? Well, in this line of code, we are redefining j equals 1, so it's kind of a redefinition of that variable j. So if we run this code, we can see what happens. And you can see here we printed 1, then we had 1 through 6, we printed 2, so I was equal to 2. Because of that reinitialization, we reprinted 1 through 6, and then we incremented again, so I was equal to 3 here, and then we reprinted 1 through 6. Now this is a pretty basic and abstract example. If it is a little bit confusing as we move through the course, this should become a little bit easier. But for now, this video should encompass everything that we need to move on to the next video. If you learned anything new or useful, please like, comment, share, subscribe. Helps the YouTube algorithm. Thank you for watching.